Thank you. Such beautiful music. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the First Unitarian Society of Milwaukee. I'm Reverend Dena McPhetres, and I'm honored to serve as Associate Minister and to welcome you to our online worship service. At First Unitarian Society of Milwaukee, we welcome people of all ages, races, ethnicities, histories, genders, sexualities, and bodies. We welcome your mind, your heart, and your spirit. We welcome all that you are carrying with you and all that your heart longs to set down. During the COVID-19 public health emergency, First Church in-person activities have moved online. Summer worship services are at 9 a.m. only through Labor Day weekend. We offer all ages religious education every Sunday at 10 a.m. with pre-K and kindergarten at 11:30 a.m. and youth group on select dates throughout the summer. Sign up for the Religious Education Weekly Update to learn more about ways to connect with our families, faith, and community. You can find the links in your live stream chat now. Join us for a virtual coffee hour this morning after service, where we chat in small groups. You can find the meeting link in the live stream chat. Visitors and members are welcome. Today we're adding something new. Connect and reflect on Sundays this summer at 11 a.m. to noon. A facilitator will share a short reading and will reflect on questions in response. It's a come-as-you-are event, no preparation needed. So please join us today at 11. The link will be in your live chat. As usual, join me to connect and reflect on Thursday evenings from 6 to 7 p.m. online. You can also join me for lunch with the Associate Minister on Monday, that's tomorrow, at 12 to 12:30 p.m. on Facebook Live. Be sure to join our First Church Facebook group. Last, but certainly not least, we are invited by Bradford Community Church Unitarian Universalists to the online ordination of First Church member Denise M. Colley to the Unitarian Universalist Ministry today at 2 p.m. See your e-announcements for that link. And if you are near Kenosha, where that congregation is located, you can join in the congratulatory car parade at 4:30 p.m. Once again, I welcome you to our online worship this morning by inviting you to repeat our mission after me. We gather to nurture the spirit, engage the mind, and inspire action. These opening words are by Anne Frank. Human greatness does not lie in wealth or power, but in character and goodness. People are just people, and all people have faults and shortcomings, but all of us are born with a basic goodness. Despite everything, I believe that people are really good at heart. Let's watch Reverend Jennifer light the chalice, symbol of Unitarian Universalism, in our beautiful sanctuary. During this unique time when people are not gathering with their community to mourn, we offer to light the COVID candle for any death of a loved one of one of our church members. If you have had a loved one die from COVID-19 or any other cause of death and would like the COVID candle lit in their honor during Sunday worship, please contact me during the summer. Today, we light the COVID candle in memory of Chris Aiken's father, Fred E. Aiken. Fred died Sunday evening, July 19th, in Caledonia, Wisconsin, from the side effects of an earlier stroke. He was 73 years old. As we enter into a time of meditation, I invite you to find a way, wherever you are, to ground yourself. Perhaps you can put your feet on the floor, maybe find a way to lift your spine so you can breathe deeply. Let your hands come to a resting place. This spoken meditation is called Reformation, the Spirit of the Wind by Kristen Harper. Some say the spirit of the wind is in the trees. You can see it, they say, if you close your eyes and stand real still. Some say that the same spirit lives in the hills, forging mountains and plains. I smelled it the other night. Lying in my bed, my window cracked. It crept through the moonlight, up under my blanket and wrapped its arms around me. Entering my blood through my skin, I felt alive with an age I had not yet reached, made new again in a form I'd never known. I cried out in pain, and joy mingled, fear and expectation. Ecstasy it has been called. I call it reformation. There was forgiveness in that spirit, compassion for my wounds, strength for my weaknesses. It was no miracle nor nirvana. I just closed my eyes and saw the spirit in the wind, the spirit in the trees, the spirit that lives in me. Let's watch Reverend Jennifer ring the meditation bowl in our sanctuary, followed by shared silence, followed by singing Spirit of Life.
Good morning. My name is Jeff Pearcy. It is my pleasure to serve as worship associate this morning and to share a few thoughts about character building. Last week, July 21st, I celebrated my 39th anniversary clean and sober. Not drinking was actually the easiest part of sobriety. Confronting my warped character and the resulting character defects was the hard part. After my first meeting with a counselor, he told me to attend a 12-step group and get the big book. I went that night to the Alano Club of Oshkosh. I was very impressed with the sincerity and humor of the group of people there. I stole one of their books. Several months later, I was attending meetings regularly. I was sincere and charming, and they made me treasurer of their group. Each meeting, people contribute $1 if they have it. Have a buck, leave a buck. Need a buck, take a buck, was often said. As treasurer, my job was to record the contributions and pay the bills. I stole the money. I kept records, but I pocketed a bit. I always knew how much I took and said to myself that I would repay it someday. Eventually, a newly awakened conscience got the better of me. I returned to my old counselor, David Lambert, and told him what I'd done. Of course, I was seeking assistance in coming clean, and as always, maybe a little praise for being honest. Twisted, I know. David said, Jeff, you're a thief. You have been a thief in the past, and you still are one now. You need to go to jail. He picked up the phone and told me to wait in the hall. A few minutes later, he came out to get me. It's all set. You're going to jail. David had called the Winnebago County Jail and volunteered my services to take a 12-step meeting into the jail every Tuesday night for a year. I went back to my group and quit as treasurer, apologized for what I had done, and made restitution. Over the years, I've given away many, many copies of the big book to prisons, jails, even took 2 copies to a small village in Africa. Every Tuesday night, I went to the jail and held a 12-step meeting in the small library. Over time, and often as a part of these meetings, I reflected on the many areas of my character that had been warped through years of drinking and drugging. I realized the many shapes in which my dishonesty and thievery had showed up in my work and my relationships with family and friends. I came to the realization that I was responsible for living a life in a manner that I could be personally proud of. I didn't do this by myself. I did need one honest man to call my behavior exactly what it was and give me a practical action process to allow it to sink in. I worked hard to undo the harm I had caused by my drinking years. I guess you could call that a character building experience. Thanks to David, a 12-step program that provides me with structure, and the loving support of my wife and friends, I continue to live a sober life and engage in a process of building character. And I am no longer a thief.
How did you ever make it? How did you plow your way through? Did you ever get lost? So darn tired you forgot what you first set out to do. Would you please tell me how? Did you ever take it? Maybe somehow you knew. They can bruise, they can beat, they can't defeat a winner. Just remember that means you, and you'll shine on the world like you shine just for me. Be who you are, and remember that star is a light that the whole world needs to see. Be not afraid, dry up your tears, live for your faith, not for your fears. Wherever you are a Now look at this girl. Every man is my brother. I never knew love so real and so pure like this before. Can you please tell me how we can say that we love her and keep on fighting these wars? We all have one mother. Peace is what mothers everywhere all keep crying for. Here's my plea for the world. It's not just for me. We can see who we are. So no matter how far, there's a light everyone on earth can see. We're under one sky, we're under one moon. We must see we are one, and we must see it soon. Wherever you are among the stars. But I believe we will make it. We have to know that we will. So much love in you, so many who seek simple kindnesses. You will be there, fill right here and right now to be a small piece of heaven. So don't forget who you are. You shine like perfection. Remember I see, remember I do, and I always will know you shine. Shine, 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 shine. Be who you are, and remember that star is a light that the whole world needs to see. Be not afraid, dry up your tears, live for your faith, never for your fear. Remember you are near or go far. Remember you are, remember you are, remember you are. You are among the stars. Hey, yes you are. You are, we are, we are among the stars. We are among the stars. We are among the stars. Hey, 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 hey. We are among the stars.
Thank you, Leah. So beautiful. This service is about salvation by character. What does it mean to be saved? Saved from ruin, saved from self-destruction, saved from despair, saved from death. Unitarian Universalist minister Lynn Unger wrote in her poem Salvation, "By what are you saved and how? Saved like a bit of string tucked away in a drawer? Saved like a child rushed from a burning building, already singed and coughing smoke? Or are you salvaged like a car part, the one good door when the rest is wrecked?" We don't talk about salvation much in our congregation. We avoid that theological word. We might have personal histories with the word, such as someone trying to save us against our will. The word salvation may ring false to our ears, signifying something we don't believe in. We don't talk about salvation much in this congregation. We talk about justice instead, which is fine. But Unitarians and Universalists have a meaningful history with the word salvation that could resource us during these challenging times. Back in the day, we were thought shapers and belief creators. Our religious forebears redefined much of what they inherited and passed it on to us. Unitarian Universalist minister Marlon Lavanhar describes our salvation history like this. The Universalist half of our tradition began as a Protestant Christian response to the Calvinist notion of salvation that was only for the elect. Instead, the Universalists proclaimed universal salvation, that everyone will go to heaven, and therefore hell and eternal torment are not part of God's plan. The Unitarian half, he continues, began as a Protestant Christian denomination that proclaimed that it is the life of Jesus rather than his death that can lead people to salvation. In New England in the 19th century, Unitarians believed in salvation by character. Each person is meant to continue to develop in moral character throughout their lifetime, and therefore, by living honestly and uprightly, and by continuing to strive to do better each day, our lives are redeemed. When I talk about salvation with our high school seniors in their Credo building series at First Church, I tell them that what you believe about salvation is connected to what you believe about God, sin, and evil. Dan Harper wrote in a blog post, religious liberals link sin and salvation, where sin is understood primarily as social sin. We humans have to save humanity from social sins like racism, global climate change, and so on. If we think of religion as having both a horizontal dimension, relationships between human beings, and a vertical dimension, relationships between human beings and the divine, liberal religion characteristically emphasizes the horizontal dimension, and so too with salvation. Many religious liberals do not affirm the existence of a divine being or beings, and for them, salvation is a human responsibility with a small vertical dimension insofar as humans respond to abstract ideals. Many religious liberals do affirm the existence of God, goddess, or other divinities, but they are very unlikely to say it is up to God whether or not the world is saved. Religious liberals assume it is up to us humans, not a divine being, to solve problems. James Freeman Clarke wrote a Unitarian profession of faith in the mid-19th century. It goes like this. We believe in the fatherhood of God, the brotherhood of man, the leadership of Jesus, salvation by character, and progress, onward and upward forever. In the 20th century, we learned that progress doesn't happen like that. Progress loops back on itself, seems elusive, loses ground, requires repeated attempts, and needs to be recreated each generation. In the 21st century, what are we learning about progress? Portland, Oregon is currently occupied by federal agents sent by the President of the United States against the wishes of state and local government officials. The federal agents are unidentified. Witnesses report that federal agents are taking people from the streets in downtown Portland, putting individuals in unmarked vans, not making arrests, not reading them their rights, not telling them why they are being taken or where. When I first read this news, I felt like I was reading a novel by Isabel Allende, in which characters are disappeared by a despotic regime in South America. But no, I am reading this news about a city in North America. This is happening now and coming soon to a city near you, in Detroit, Chicago, and yes, there are threats they will come to Milwaukee. Chris Ott, executive director of the ACLU of Wisconsin, said in a statement reported by the Wisconsin Examiner on July 23rd, "It's hard to say too much about the seriousness of what we've seen in Portland, or plans to expand these repressive, sinister tactics to other cities in the United States. Sending unmarked government agents to abduct people off the street in secret is an incredibly dangerous line to cross. It's the kind of thing that happens in police states and dictatorships. In America, this is unconstitutional and unforgivable." Friends, would you say that evil is an important theological word in these challenging times? I would. Rebecca Parker wrote in the book A House for Hope, The Promise of Progressive Religion for the 21st Century. Evil is that which exploits the lives of some to benefit the lives of others. Evil congregates in social structures that are beneficial to some while leaving others bereft of life's necessities. Evil's accomplice is anesthetization. Evil's accomplice is anesthetization, she continues. When the senses have been numbed and feeling has been stifled, responsiveness is dulled, and love has no air to breathe. Salvation comes through the gift of human powers and capacities used to heal injury, comfort the afflicted, create justice, and offer love. People in Portland appear to understand that. They are not waiting for God to save them. They are working together. It is probably no coincidence that Portland is getting so much attention, a majority white city in a majority white state. Comedians joke that there are more Black Lives Matter signs in Portland than there are Black people. Yet hundreds and now thousands of people are coming out to the streets in downtown Portland to support the movement for Black lives, since George Floyd was murdered by police in Minneapolis on May 25th. Portland's white suburban mothers in yellow t-shirts are trying to shield Black and brown people by linking arms to form a wall of moms in between the federal agents and the protesters. Dads are bringing leaf blowers to try to blow tear gas away from protesters. A wall of veterans recently joined the front lines of the protests. Last Tuesday, the Oregonian newspaper reported that 2 Oregon state representatives, the Western State Center, the First Unitarian Church of Portland, and a Portland attorney joined to sue 4 federal law enforcement agencies that are providing tactical officers to defend the downtown federal courthouse. The suit contends federal officers who have gone beyond the sidewalks outside the Mark O. Hatfield courthouse have encroached on state powers and violated the First Unitarian Church of Portland's right to protest and practice social activism that are tenets of its faith and protected under the First Amendment's free exercise of religion clause. Well, we know that stopping federal agents' violence won't happen under the power of one human being. It takes people working together. Similarly, although individual salvation is important, it is only through working together that we have a chance to save each other. Here is where we must submit to the truth that becoming a person of character is inextricably tied to being part of a people of character, a community. It is the power of community, of human relationship, that saves. UU minister Paul Razor wrote in his book, Faith Without Certainty, the liberal modern individualistic understanding of the self is no longer tenable. Our liberal modern understanding of ourselves as autonomous individuals is an illusion. The truth is that we don't first exist as individuals who then form social groups. The group always comes first. As individuals, our identities are always formed in relation to a particular social context. If I cannot see myself in solidarity with others whose circumstances are different than my own, then something is missing from my own identity. My sense of self is incomplete. In this self-help oriented culture, we often feel the need to attend to our well-being before we reach out to someone else. But our own well-being is deeply connected to the well-being of others. We can be healed only when there is healing and justice for others as well. Well, there are many Unitarian Universalist theologians currently redefining the meaning of salvation. The Reverend Schuyler Vogel, minister of the Fourth Universalist Society in New York City, delivered the John Murray Distinguished Lecture at General Assembly last month. In it, he traced the history of Universalism and its changing views of salvation. He said when John Murray arrived in New England 250 years ago, Universalism focused on God's love, benevolence, and mercy, and not on human agency. Later Universalists got the idea that humans could try to live in as generous and loving a manner as God. So they focused on charitable works. Later, Clarence Skinner articulated a humanist view that people must work out their own salvation and linked universalism with social change. Vogel, among others, claims that now we need to move our theology and therefore our actions further along the spectrum from individual salvation to collective liberation. Our belief in human goodness is not about goodness alone, he says. Goodness means justice. The Reverend Dr. Sophia Bettencourt Associate Professor of Unitarian Universalist Theologies and Ethics at Starr King School for the Ministry, said at a 2018 General Assembly workshop, "A universalist theology of liberation in the present day centers our capacity to be sanctuaries of radical truth-telling and abundant compassion, so that the all-embracing love at the center of our tradition can serve to make all of us more whole." As you know, two civil rights icons died on July 17th. An obituary states, longtime civil rights leader, the Reverend C.T. Vivian, drew national attention in Selma, Alabama on February 16, 1965, during his showdown with Dallas County Sheriff James G. Clark, whose fondness for military-style helmets and jackets and whose aggressively brutal use of a nightstick made him one of the most notorious law enforcement officials in the Deep South. Reverend Vivian was in Selma to register African Americans to vote, while the county board of registrars threw up resistance, first declining to accept applications and then insisting on literacy tests and other hurdles to slow the process. A federal district judge demanded an end to such roadblocks. Amid a light rain, Reverend Vivian corralled about 100 followers in a line that snaked around the county courthouse. He directed them to take shelter on the building steps. Sheriff Clark and his club-wielding deputies ordered Reverend Vivian to leave and began to shove everyone off the steps. What you're really trying to do is intimidate these people, and by making them stand in the rain, keep them from registering to vote, the minister said in an electrifying response, while jabbing his finger at Clark. And this is a kind of violation of the Constitution, a violation of a court order, a violation of decent citizenship. Clark turned his back, and Reverend Vivian continued, "You can turn your back on me, but you cannot turn your back upon the idea of justice. You can turn your back now, and you can keep your club in your hand, but you cannot beat down justice. And we will register to vote, because as citizens of these United States, we have the right to do it." Minister held his ground and called the sheriff a brute, a fascist, and Hitler, according to news accounts. Clark, a stocky 220 pounds, aimed a fist at Reverend Vivian's mouth, sending him reeling down the stairs before he was taken to jail on a charge of criminal provocation. Vivian studied theology alongside future civil rights leader and U.S. Congressman John Lewis at the American Baptist College in Nashville, Tennessee, where they trained waves of activists in nonviolent protest. Civil rights icon and conscience of the Congress, Representative John Lewis understood progress as a daily endeavor. He worked on voting rights, among other justice issues, his entire adult life. Lewis wrote in his memoir, Across the Bridge, "Freedom is not a state. It is an act. It is not some enchanted garden perched high on a distant plateau where we can finally sit down and rest. Freedom is the continuous action we all must take, and each generation must do its part to create an even more fair, more just society." In a tweet from 2018, he said, "Do not get lost in a sea of despair. Be hopeful. Be optimistic. Our struggle is not the struggle of a day, a week, a month, or a year. It is the struggle of a lifetime. Never ever be afraid to make some noise and get in good trouble, necessary trouble." Well, I think it is futile to compare ourselves to John Lewis, but it is fruitful to be inspired by him and by the young people who are currently leading the movement for Black lives. As we grow up, anytime something bad happens to us, the adults around us say, "It's a character building experience." But how does that work? Someone said in our worship associate retreat, "I can have good intention to be a certain kind of person, but it's only when it's tested that I find out my character." Going through the experience doesn't build character. It's what you do with what you've learned from it. What does it mean to be saved? Saved from ruin, saved from self-destruction, saved from despondency and despair, saved from racism, saved from violence, saved from fascism, saved from death. Does our own individual character save us? Or is there something beyond? Do we need more than that? Do we need each other? I think you know the answer. Let's turn our attention to Dale Skaggs as he invites us into generosity.
Good morning. My name is Dale Skaggs, and I invite you now to join in a spirit of generosity. We know this coronavirus pandemic is affecting our members in many different ways, but for those of us who can give right now, it is more important than ever to share our resources with people who have been harder hit by the pandemic. Our church supports members and friends of our congregation spiritually, emotionally, and materially, and supports people in Milwaukee through our relationships with our community partners. Your pledges are the foundation of our congregation and the core of our spiritual practice of generosity. In addition, we are grateful for non-pledge gifts from folks who appreciate our online ministry and are benefiting from it. We also have a special fund for people who need financial support called the Minister's Discretionary Fund. You can give to the church by texting 73256 with the message "Give to UU $." That's the word "give," the number 2, UU $. Follow the prompts and choose pledge payment, non-pledge gift, or minister's discretionary. You can also give to First Church by going to our web-based giving link. That's at onrealm.org/FUSM/give/First You can see both these options on your screen. We also encourage you to give directly to our community partners. You can find a list of their needs on our website at uumilwaukee.org/support-Milwaukeeans-COVID-19, which you can see on your screen. This summer, we are highlighting the work of the Bread of Healing Clinic, a neighborhood-based clinic on Milwaukee's north side for individuals with financial or other barriers to quality health care, including medical, dental, vision, and behavioral health care. The clinic serves people of 52 different languages and is committed to achieving health, not simply eliminating sickness. Now more than ever, we know that health is an issue of social justice, a right that belongs to all people, not just a commodity to be delivered on the basis of finances. A link for direct contributions to the clinic should be on your screen. All of your offerings to our community partners and to First Church will be gratefully received. And now, as always, but especially at this time when our interdependence is so evident, thank you for your generosity.
My life goes on in endless song above earth's lamentation. I hear the real, the far off hymn that hails a new creation.
No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging, since love prevails in heaven and earth. How can I keep from
Although the tempest round me roars, I know the truth it liveth. And though the darkness round me grows, songs in the night it giveth. No storm can shake my inmost song, while to that rock I'm clinging, since love prevails in heaven and earth. How can I keep from singing? I lift my eyes, the cloud grows thin. I see the blue above it, and day by day this pathway smooths. Since first I learned to love it, no storm can shake my inmost calm. I hear the music ringing, it sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing?
Thank you so much. That really filled me up. These closing words to help send us out into our day and our week and our month and our year in which we daily struggle and try to live up to the best of our character and do what we can toward collective liberation. These closing words are by Joy Harjo. Oh, sun, moon, stars, our other relatives peering at us from the inside of God's house. Walk with us as we climb, naked but for the stories we have of each other. Keep us from giving up in this land of nightmares, which is also the land of miracles. We sing our song, which we've been promised has no beginning or end. Let's watch Reverend Jennifer extinguish our flaming chalice, and please stay to listen to our own Kari Gunderson play the postlude. You won't want to miss it. Be well, friends.